Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be showing you how incredibly insanely easy it is to actually change out your own spark plugs. Now, before I get started, let me point out here that this is a four-cylinder Honda engine where the spark plugs are actually located right in front and right on top. Now, on some engines, some V6s and stuff, you got, three in front, and then you got the rocker engines, which means you have to actually tilt the whole engine forward, and then there's three-way tucked in the back. That can be more difficult to get to, or sometimes there's components that you may need to move out of the way or remove or unbolt in order to get to the spark plugs. And occasionally you will need universal joints to get down into those spark plug wells and get things out. But as far as getting to the spark plugs, that is vehicle by vehicle. But I'm going to show you how to actually change them out. Just once you find them, once you get to them. But before we get started, when you're looking for spark plugs, if you don't know what a spark plug is, please don't even bother watching the rest of this video. Get yourself figured out on that first. These are coil wires here. These four wires here. You got the distributor over here, and it pretty much sends power through these coil wires down into the spark plug and creates a spark in the chamber down there at the correct time, and pushes the piston back down and continues your engine on its cycle. And if your engine's running poorly, if it's idling funny, if maybe you got a cylinder dead or something's going on there, a lot of times it is the spark plugs to blame, because people don't change them out as often as they should. So what we're going to do here is remove this boot here. The end of the coil wire where it connects to the spark plug is called the boot. And on engines where they haven't really been taken care of or maintained, or they're really dirty or something, instead of just pulling it straight out, where you can possibly tear the boot, what you would probably want to do is twist it side to side first in order to break any seal that's in there that's built up over time. And that way, when you're pulling it out, you're not working against anything you shouldn't be. As usual, always start with a cool engine, so that way you're not pinching the plug in there and you risk breaking it or damaging it or stripping anything out. So after you've opened the hood and located your plugs, you've pulled your boot off, the next step would be to grab a plug socket. Now, plug sockets come in a variety of sizes. This is the one we're going to use. It's a 5/8, which is a 16mm socket, and they have either a magnet or a rubber boot on the inside in order to grab the spark plug as it comes out. And that just helps. So you can get the plug in and out easier. But the rubber boots don't always work as well as they should. They get worn down really fast. So I'm going to show you a little trick you can use if your rubber boots aren't working, or the rubber in there is missing completely or something like that, or maybe you're just using a regular socket. But for spark plugs, you can see how we have 6 points on this, or 6 sides on here. This is called a 6-point socket. You would never want to use a 12-point. You never want to use anything funky like that. You want to use only a 6-point socket, because if you strip out the edges of the spark plug down there, it's going to be really difficult to get it out. So put these other two back. Here's an example of another socket that you would not want to use. This is, see all these little grooves in there? That's only going to grip just the very edges of the spark plug, whereas this grips a lot more of it and gives you more torque on it to actually remove it. This could very easily strip it out, especially if it's rust welded in there, or if there's something else that's preventing it from wanting to come out. So 6-sided socket only, deep well socket if you don't have a spark plug socket, and this happens to be a 3/8 drive. So these spark plugs are going to come out really easily. I just changed them out the other day, but I'm going to make this video just to show you guys anyway. So we have the spark plug socket and a couple of extensions, and then we have our ratchet. You never want to use power tools to try to zip these things out. Once you break it free, we'll just kind of remove it. Take the socket off and just twist it out with my fingers. And you see what the rubber boot on the end did? It gripped the plug right in there, so that way it comes out with the spark plug, or with the socket there. And this spark plug looks really good. It looks brand new because I put it in the other day. I'm gonna grab a box of spark plugs here and show you one that isn't so good. Here, let's find a bad one in here. Yeah, there we go. I don't know how well you can really see these on this camera. It's not the best quality thing in the world, but this one's well, it hasn't really developed a color yet, but what you're looking for is a nice tan color. This one is kind of white and chalky. That means the engine was running lean. It's getting too much air versus fuel. Not sure what this one came out of, can't remember. But if it's really black, that means your engine's running rich and you're getting too much fuel and not enough air, and that can both ends of that can lead to a lot of problems and set off some codes and whatever else. But anyways, once you pull your old one out, chuck it. You don't need it anymore. Get rid of it. It's gonna do you no good for anything. Once we have the spark plug out, next thing we do is we'll bring it over to the bench. Now, we've taken our old spark plug out, toss it. We have our new spark plug. There's a new one. Well, same one that was in there. But anyway, you have your new spark plug. Always gap them. Whether you use a coin type gauge or these are leaf gauges here that have all these thin little blades on them of different widths. Always gap them. Let me show you something. For those of you who believe spark plugs come pre-gapped, here's a spark plug package. On the back of the package itself, it says set gap before installing. It says set gap before installing. You have to do this yourself. Don't trust that they come pre-gapped. Because if anybody who out there does regular automotive maintenance or replaces spark plugs often enough will know they rarely ever come gapped for the specific gap size for your engine. So in order to gap it, I don't like that one. I have another one on my keyring that I like a lot better. So you have all these little numbers on it that go 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Those are thousandths of an inch. And we're gapping the space between the outer edge here and the center electrode. So we pretty much just move it along there, see where it stops. And it is at, you can see, let's let the camera focus. It is at about 44 thousandths of an inch. My engine requires, well, on this car, it requires anywhere from 40 thousandths to 44 thousandths, so we're right in that good mid-range there. If it was smaller, we'd simply just enlarge the gap. If it was larger, we'd make the gap a little smaller. We could just put something on solid, press it down a little bit, and then either way, up or down, you just pretty much set the gap to whatever is recommended for your engine. Now this is a this is kind of an unusual situation here, but this is one of those cars that some punk kid put a bunch of body kits on and just did some weird stuff to it. And your stock hood will have, it's usually right around this area on the hood, will have a sticker with the correct gap size. Otherwise, you can Google it. Sometimes it's on a sticker right on the front here, and occasionally it's right around here. I've seen it once or twice in the driver's door well, but that's pretty unusual. But anyways, once you've gapped it, what you can do now is actually take some anti-seize lubricant. You can pick this up in a container like this, which is some more expensive stuff, bigger stuff. I go through enough spark plugs that this is actually worth my money. Otherwise, if you're only doing this for your car, and once in a very great while, you can get something like this at the auto parts store, which is just a little packet of it. You tear open the corner, you spread it around on your plugs, and what this does is it actually keeps it from rusting and sticking and just anything else. It helps keep good contact, helps keep the plug grounded, just prevents any weather-related issues, any corrosion, any of that type of stuff. So the plug works fine, and it comes out easy the next time. So this is essential to anytime you change spark plugs. You need the anti-seize lubricant. So when we apply it, we'll just put a tiny little bit on the threads, spread it around. You can see the spark plug's already kind of shiny because I already have it on there. And what we do then is we'll put the spark plug, the new one, in our socket and very gently put it down in there. You don't want to drop it, you don't want to shove it, you want to be very careful with it because you don't want to risk changing the gap on the bottom of that plug. So very gently, we'll start threading it in with just our fingertips. If it's not threading in, you may be attempting to cross thread it, which would be a big no-no because that's a pain in the butt to deal with. But especially with the anti-seize lubricant on there, and doing it gently, it should find its own place and start threading it very gently. So once you do that, you'll eventually come to a place where it's tight, and from there you just stop. Now we have two options from here. One is we could take our socket or our ratchet here and come up here and just snug it up a little bit, which works fine in most cases. Or two, we could take an actual torque wrench and set it for whatever torque settings that is recommended for this engine. Now, if you don't know the torque specifications for your particular engine, 12 to 15 foot-pounds is a good place to start. Otherwise, you risk stripping it out, and then anything on the head that's stripped out, that's a pain in the butt to deal with. If you don't know how to use a torque wrench, there's a zillion other videos of that. So go check those out. But this is a click style. I'm not going to tell you what I set this at because it really doesn't matter. Your engine is probably going to be a different number, but when it gets to where it's supposed to be torqued at, you'll hear a click. Just like that. And then we'll try it one more time. We'll just make sure to click it again, and we know it's torqued correctly. Now, you can put some dielectric grease in here just to help waterproof it a little bit, seal it off, give it a little better contact. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to stick the boot right back on. And there we go. This exact same process would be repeated for all four. It really doesn't take that long. And the only reason it took me that long to do one is because I'm trying to explain all this stuff to you guys so you know. Now, on something like this, you can just pull all 4 off, throw it off to the side, pull all the plugs out, gap them, put some anti-seize on them, put them back in, torque them down, whatever. And then you can throw your coil wires back on. But there are some engines where if you take them all off at the same time, you may not know where they go back on. So you can either mark your plugs or just do one at a time until you get familiar with your engine, but that's pretty much it. Then of course start it up, run it, and see how it sounds. Good spark plugs will give you better throttle response, better idling, better fuel economy, more power, all that good stuff, so it's well worth the time and effort to change them out.